All right. All right, there we go. I wasn't sure if the music would stop automatically or not, but hello everyone, and welcome to episode 126 of the Hideout, where we will be discussing Web3 gaming and the Metaverse. Today we will have another great panel of guests. Today, all of our guests are going to be games, which is actually kind of rare for us. We started off having that, a lot of games coming on, and it's really become more diverse. But today we are going to have a pretty game and metaverse focused panel. So excited for that. Always love to talk Web3 gaming. I know we're still waiting on one more of our speakers, but in the meantime, we can get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders of Apollo Entertainment, the studio behind the Satoshiverse and the Legion's 2029 game, as well as this Hideout Spaces. We've been building, in this space for about 5 years now. I've been in the space probably about 8 years. Came in 2017. I was a lawyer in the entertainment industry before that. Red-pilled into NFTs because I believed they would be the future of digital asset ownership, and the rest is history. I've been building in the space ever since. Love it through all of the ups and downs, all the crazy times. It's been pleasure to be in the space, and especially love coming onto these spaces every week and getting to talk to other awesome founders who are doing the same in their little corner of the world. So really excited to jump into this panel. For those of you who don't know about the Satoshiverse, we started it back in 2020. It was originally a comic collaboration with the legendary Jose Delbo, who at the time was an 87-year-old comic artist who had been working for DC and Marvel Comics for 60 years. We got together and created our Satoshi the Creator superhero and built an entire story around that. From there, we launched a few avatar collections, which gave us the resources to build our Legion's 2029 game, which we have been working on for the last 3.5 years. It is a fast-paced, action-packed hack and slash game where you are fighting through the outskirts against the evil defenders of Fiat, with leading the revolution with your biosynth. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because I pinned a tweet where you can see everything about the game, all the stuff we're doing. We've got prizes, we've got competitions, we've got ownable items, NFTs, full integration, all the good stuff you would expect, and just having a lot of fun doing it. But what I want to do is I want to jump over to actually one more thing, because we announced it today and it's been a lot of work and a long time coming. For those members of our community who haven't seen yet, you can now download the GLBs of your avatars, which is special for us as we were one of the first 3D avatar collections, but creating highly detailed Unreal Engine avatars didn't necessarily translate to an easy way of then exporting those avatars. Well, the tech's gotten better, and with it, we've been able to make those available. So definitely excited to see what everyone does with them. But now let's jump over to our guests. What we'll do is we'll have you guys do an introduction. Let us know about yourselves, what you're building. Feel free to pin anything visual to the top of the spaces, especially with games. If you have gameplay video or anything that would showcase what you guys are building, that would be awesome. Just pin it up to the top of the spaces. And give us an introduction. Why don't we start with Outer Ring to start? Welcome to the spaces.
Hi there. Thank you. Thank you for your time and for the introduction in this space. So my name is Adan Hernandez. I'm the CEO of Outer Ring, the Outer Ring Metaverse. For those who don't know, Outer Rings is a place where players can engage in a persistence open world shaped by blockchain technology. We launched in June 2023, and then we have the next alpha version in August 2025 to be released. So Outer Ring combines traditional gaming mechanics with real economic incentives and allow players to earn, trade, and build in a decentralized economy. We have more than 25 holders, and we are growing. The game enables user-generated content and the NFT ownership, which is something that we are pushing. We are mission-based. We have mission-based rewards, and through the decentralized application, you can build your own armor and guns to use it inside the game. And just to let you know, Ordering is not only a game, it's more than a game. It's a digital society evolving through community participation and most of it innovation. Thank you.
No, I love that. And I was checking out the Twitter before, and there was some cool gameplay footage and other things there. So definitely check it out. Looks like a very cool thing you guys are building. Let's jump over to Retrocraft. Welcome to the Spaces.
Hi, hello. Do you hear me?
Yep, you sound good.
Okay. So my name is Pixel, and I am the core lead developer in Retrocraft. And what we are doing in Retrocraft is like, for sure, all of you know Minecraft, you know. So our game is actually a blockchain server built inside Minecraft. So when any player join to our server, they already have an in-game wallet, which it is very easy to access, you know, and to create. They don't really need to do anything. So what we are focusing also is on very seamlessly, you know, integrating these Web2 users from the biggest community in the world, that is Minecraft, and building several mini games within our game where users can be rewarded and they can trade items with each other, and building several mini games, you know, that can bring to the users the value they deserve. So the game is live. It's also available on several devices, and in all the devices that Minecraft supports, you know, like PC, like phone, consoles, and easy to play, easy to join, and let's see. Thank you for inviting us.
That's amazing. Well, really, really great to have you on. I'm a fan of Minecraft, and it's really cool to see blockchain integrations inside of Minecraft. I think that sounds awesome, and I think it's only a matter of time before a lot of these major titles that allow you to see open up their doors to, different sorts of blockchain implementation. So it's really cool to see you guys are doing it so early on with a major title. And yeah, let's
Thanks.
why don't we jump over to Spencer who's on the Satoshiverse account today? We switched it up because I have unstable internet connection. I don't want to drop the whole Spaces like I did a couple weeks ago, just because of an Airbnb. But Spencer, give the people what they want. Let's take them into the Spaces.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. My name is Spencer. I am the business development manager here with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment. Excited to be here asking the questions on today's space. So before we get into all of that, though, I do want to pin a tweet to the top of the space. Here we go. All right. So we do a giveaway every week on the Hideout, and this week we are giving away 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is one of the main in-game resources within the Satoshiverse in our Legions 2029 game. You basically need these to upgrade all of your avatars and in-game items. Very, very important. So in order to win these 5 Satoshi's crystals, all you have to do is be here at the end of our space when we announce a winner. So if you're here listening right now, just stick around until the end of the space, and you will be entered to win. So good luck, everyone, on that. Now I want to kind of get into the format of the space. So we're going to start out with a group discussion question. I will call on somebody to start, and then feel free to just jump into the discussion from there. No need to raise hands or anything like that. And then we'll get into some individual questions for each of you guys. And then if we still have some more time, again, at the end, then we'll do another group question or two. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I think let's have Outer Ring start us out on this first one. So Web3 gaming continues to unlock new ways for players to participate. What's one area you think still has huge potential to innovate and grow?
Well, on our side, we thought the potential integration of the player-owned economies is something that is growing with real in-game utility. And here in Ordering, we are having the full ecosystem when we allow the people to grow inside their economy with rewards. And when someone comes and play, they want to receive something, they want the benefit, but also they want to be the first one. So with this, we're planning to have like innovation on NFTs, setting up what is the first come first serve, and then in the future you can say I was the official owner of those NFTs. So we still need to innovation how players can directly influence in the game economy, not just raise NFTs, but crafting, earning, and then even use governance aspect in the universe. And also we are working in a model where community driven creation, and we have a DAO governance and off-chain to on-chain interoperability. That comes together. That's the way that we are unlocking new ways to participate, because we are bringing Web2 users to Web3 economy.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, I think that ownership, right, and decentralized player economies have kind of been the buzzword in Web3 for a while, but we really haven't seen it manifest the way that I think a lot of us expected it would early on. I think, a lot of we saw a lot of pushback in the early days, not just from, traditional gaming studios, but also from gamers who, kind of saw this as just another trick or whatever it might be. And I think that what we learned is that we really do have to define things a bit better in terms of their value props. So like what you're saying with people like to be first, showing a way that they can be demonstrably first in an authenticated way, right? Showing that they were the first ones and that will last forever because they have some way of pointing to that. I think when I think about major opportunity areas, I definitely think about what you just said and agree with it. I also think that there's probably a pretty big area that's yet to be explored when it comes to not just games, but gamification. I think one of the things that I've seen kind of with new tech and just kind of fun things that become viral is that brands and retailers and different, IPs are able to use those to kind of expand their reach. So one of the things I think Web3 could be particularly good at doing is taking something that already has value, whether it's, someone going shopping somewhere or, someone going on a scavenger hunt to find certain things, or even just, walking in the park and attaching some gamified element to that, and then using Web3 to, incentivize certain behavior that creates value, right? And so we've had guests on here that are doing different versions of that. We've seen kind of the way that, games like Pokemon Go, for example, which was a game, it was an AR game, but it was a game. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And I think there's a major opportunity to connect real world actions that create real world value through new technology, whether it's AR or something, in your phones, mobile tech, gamify that, whether it's questing or some sort of reward system or, progression. You could have a leveling system to your buying behaviors at Starbucks, right? And you could be a level 50 Starbucks customer, and maybe that involves you going to 50 different Starbucks all around a particular country or whatever it is, right? And that sort of like enthusiast behavior that reinforces things, giving rewards, giving and making it fun, right? Making it the type of thing where maybe one day if we have AR integrated, that person, when they walk into a Starbucks, is going to have some really cool aura around them because they're like a level 99 Starbucks person and maybe they get to use a special line. I think that's the type of thing we're going to see. And I think Web3 will become the backbone of a system like that. I think ultimately this technology is really going to take off when digital takes off. And I think we are barely scratching the surface of what digital is going to do in the future. And I just think we have so much coming in the next couple of years with the proliferation of AR, VR, and AI. I think, we're what we consider right now, we're playing games on a phone or a TV screen or, our computers, is going to be like old news, old tech, something kids did in the past. And our kids or their kids are going to look at us like we were crazy because we sat in a chair all day and played games, right? And I think that, that's the next step for all this. And I think Web3 has the potential to be the backbone for all this value creation, real value creation that's going to exist. What do you think, Retro?
No, yeah, of course, I also agree with them, and because what you said regarding the tokenization, like all the platforms will be connected with each other, for example, with the example that you give of the Starbucks stuff, there, there need to be like a common way of like, I don't know how to express it, but the technology will be through the NFTs and digital assets, where players with the same wallet, they can connect it to several games, and then they can see their assets or their special skills or auras, and show it to everyone. But I think that the main thing right now we need to focus is that to make it very easy, for everyone to join the game, to make it as easy as possible without wallets or without connecting MetaMask. I think we need to really try to make this Web2 community come to the games by making them fun and very easy to understand. And that is the most challenging thing right now, because we need to create real value first inside the game. So.
Yeah, I totally agree there too. I mean, I think, we've talked about tokens a lot on this space, and we talk about, tokenomics and how different things come together in the Web3 space. But I think what it always ultimately comes back to is what you said, right? You have to create real value in order to be able to distribute value. And at the end of the day, that's what tokens do, right? They distribute value that's been created. But I think there's kind of a misconception that tokens themselves are creating all this value, when really, if the game's not creating value, all that's essentially just vapor, right? There's no intrinsic value necessarily to having a token. The token is kind of a reflection of the value that's being created by the game or the community or the combination of that. And so, like what you said is completely true. We do really need to be focused on not only creating the value in creating great games that people want to play, and I think more importantly, from a token perspective, spend money in, right? Because otherwise there's no real value to redistribute. I think that on the other side of that, you have these play to earn models where that's not really part of the system, and we see a lot of the problems with that. But I think if we're creating value, and like you said, if we're reducing the barriers to entry, I think those are the two things, right? The barriers to entry are allowing the onboarding and bringing more people in, but then the value creation is what makes it sticky. And if you can have both, I think then there's a real opportunity to build, lasting experiences and create player economies that actually work. I haven't seen a ton of examples of it yet. I think there's a lot of projects that are doing really good work to get there. I just think that it's still such a niche community that it's hard, right? It's hard to break through. It seems like no matter how good a project is, for example, it's almost impossible for that project to kind of justify the massive valuations behind the token or whatever it is. So it seems like usually having a token seems to outpace the actual value creation of a lot of these projects. And I think that's a challenge that we have. Right, exactly. So, I mean...
Yeah, I agree, yeah, because actually, the logical thing that sadly is very difficult nowadays, it should be, the token should be only like an additional feature, in the game. It shouldn't be, like most of the projects, and it's understandable because it's very rough out there, and they are living many teams through the tokenomics, their share of the tokenomics, and actually the games and projects to have a healthy growth, they need to live through through their income from the game, instead of selling tokens. But that is very difficult, and but I think one day, and there will be that moment where players and projects can survive mainly from the income they get from different um, in-game purchases, from trading fees inside the game. Because if it is not in that way, it will be very difficult for the game to be in the long term.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, for example, when we just released our Bits token, but we spent a very long time thinking about this issue, right? With tokens and the speculative nature and how it's very challenging to have that fully integrated. So what we did is we actually worked on creating a new standard for ERC20 tokens that makes them semi-soul bound. And we use which basically means that it can only be transferred within a closed ecosystem. And so what we essentially were able to do with that is take away the speculative side of the token and have a token that essentially is paired and creates liquidity for all of our in-game assets, but doesn't carry any real world transferable value that can be kind of extrinsically, tapped into from outside the ecosystem. And what we believe there is that can serve as the basis for the in-game economy. And then once the game matures, once things are ready, just like you said, then a token, a premium token, can be layered on top of that, and there can be this interconnected ecosystem. But I think, it is a matter of what you said. I mean, realistically, the main reason projects are releasing tokens as early as they are is because of funding, right? And they need to generate funding. And in 2021 and 2022, VCs would not touch projects that didn't have tokens, which is why you saw a lot of tokens, right? So I think at the end of the day, we are moving into a new phase of gaming projects where, I think AI could have a lot to do with this, but also I think founders are starting to think smaller, which is probably a good thing. They're thinking about, what can I accomplish with a small team? What can I accomplish with the resources I have available? Even things like what you guys are doing retro with Minecraft makes a ton of sense, because you're taking advantage of huge budgets and a ton of work that's already been done, and kind of layering on top of that, which is, I think, the type of projects that we need to see in order to kind of sustainably build. But also what you guys are doing, you guys have been doing this for a very long time as well, building gradually over time, not necessarily trying to build some monolith of an experience, but building for the market that currently exists and then expanding as you go, which I think is kind of the new meta for Web3 gaming, this kind of experimentation and build as you go meta. Whereas in 2021 and 2022, when the VCs were, throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into games, you were just seeing these crazy aspiration games just sink money and not get built, right? I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of big titles that we were looking forward to that may never see the light of day, or have pivoted into something else. And I think that's kind of sad, and I think it's a byproduct of the overhype that was around in 2021, 22. But yeah, I know this has been a good discussion. I think we can probably, unless you guys want to respond to any of that, we can probably move into the individual questions and keep it going.
All right. Well, I will take that sounds, unless Retro, do you have something you were going to say? Nope. Okay. Well, then I will take us into our individual questions here. So the first one is going to go to Outer Ring. So Outer Ring lets players create parts of the game world. As more games explore user-generated content, how do you see this shaping the future of the player experience in Web3?
Well, let's say a meaningful metaverse experience isn't just about graphics and scale. It's about, let's say, purpose, interaction, and ownership. What we're looking for is that our ring can give players the ability to live and build an influence within the world. We have a gameplay, we have economy, we have a very great community, and all of this conversion of persistence evolving universe. I think we're getting closer to do an interoperability with the player agency. Let's say the game, we are being pioneer in the path where the user actions can shape the world, the assets can retain the value across all the context that we have inside the game, and the role that evolves from player to co-creator is not only the game is what you are seeing, it's giving the users something to be proud of. So for us, I think this is something great to have for the newcomers, for the new Web3 gamers, and also for the people who wants to create that bridge between the Web2 and Web3.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, look, UGC for me is kind of what Web3 was created for, right? It is the rails for that train that is leaving the station. I mean, with the advent of AI, you are seeing people who were hobbyist creators or not necessarily technical be able to do incredible things, right? And I think with the fact that it's going to be so easy to do these things, it's going to make personal creation so much more important, right? And I think the reality is you're not going to have to go out and buy a high quality customized avatar from an IP. You may want to, right? Because you may love Superman, so you may want a Superman avatar. But if you want to create an avatar that is a unicorn in armor that looks like a person, half unicorn, you're going to be able to do that in minutes. And that avatar is going to be able to be used. And maybe that cool creation you do, other people are going to want because you build some community around that and you're going to be able to sell it. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to want to be able to do those things for yourself as much as for others. And I think that you're going to see an advent of people using these characters in games and I guess the interoperability layer that is kind of slowly forming in Web3 to express themselves and to form unique identities that then they take to the different places that they go. And I think it's going to be an extension of some of these streamers or social media personas that we see, right? Where people create an entirely different identity for themselves and take that identity with them in different places. I think we're going to see the same thing in gaming and the metaverse, just because of the ease of creation of avatars and different props. I also think we're going to see game building, right? I think the world building even is coming within the next year with AI, and so it's really interesting when I sit down and think about it. It's a little bit overwhelming what the gaming space is going to look like a year or two from now with all the changes that are coming. But yeah, I mean, Web3 kind of, again, it's that ownership layer, and my core thesis is as digital becomes bigger, so does Web3, and I think we're seeing that.
Yeah, actually, one thing that I can add is, in the normal world with the Web2 gaming, there's a lot of people who loves to do a copycat, and you can't do anything about it because it's there's an easy way so who someone can create another username same like you, have the same skin, same gun, same everything. And you can lose like followers and all of these things. So with a new ownership thing, there's only one way to make sure that you are the right guy. So one of the things that we love of this is if somebody wants to join with you, if somebody wants to buy anything that you just created, you can sell it. It's not like like we are doing right now. You have something that it works, let's say a meta gun in a normal game, you can sell it. You can only share your aspects of that gun and anyone can copy it. What about if you can create your own and you can be like the best player? and you can say, okay, this is my gun. If you want to play like me, just buy this gun, and that's it. So this is one thing that we really, really focus in, because we know is is one of the best ways to bring users and tell them like, this is one thing that you can create, you can sell, and you can build your own brand inside the metaverse.
That's a really interesting point. I mean, I'm thinking back to, my Diablo 4, my limited playing because I didn't have enough time to really dive in, but that was a very intricate game with some crazy, different build paths that you can go down, and there were just infinite amount of options. And, I remember getting to a certain point where I was looking at forums and videos and whatnot, and kind of seeing what those meta builds were, and what the gear loadout was, and thinking to that, even something like a a meta build, right? Like a build that's depicted and just has a bunch of combinations of things that person has fine-tuned, and they can sell that build, without actually selling any asset. That could be something that would be really interesting to be minted and sold. So I mean, yeah, it's, again, it's like, if you can create value, this is a way of, digitally, this is a way of allowing that value to be transferred and purchased. So, it totally makes sense.
Awesome. Well, I will move us along to our next individual question, which is going to go to Retrocraft. So why do you think retro experiences connect so deeply with players today, and how can that nostalgia drive long-term engagement?
Retro, I'm still seeing you muted in case you're talking without unmuted.
Yes, yes. Sorry. Yeah, I think that, of course, the retro games, but not only retro games is what we have in RetroCast, but the main thing, we have several retro games like tank games, some retro style racing games, or other stuff, that we are planning to add, even some Tetris, for example. All of this with the Web3 elements, all inside a very common platform that many people already have. So this is the way we are trying to connect with the people that like these traditional games without having to focus only in, for example, in creating a project, only focus on Tetris. That will be quite complicated, and also maybe even boring. It's better when people have different options inside the game to choose what they want to play and tokenize it. So yeah, but also very interesting the conversation you were having earlier regarding the tokenization, in the traditional games, because in traditional games, like say, these more famous games like Fortnite or different games in Steam, people, when they even try to sell these games get millions of dollars a month, in income, dozens of millions. And when these people try to cash out, what they have got and what they have worked for, their accounts can get banned in any moment. So it's interesting to see how these games make so much money without the players expecting nothing in return. And thanks to that, we can give them something.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I think for two reasons, really, right? You look at a game like Fortnite and their model, and you think about, where Web3 might fit in, might not fit in. But I think that the point you made about them making a ton of money, right, just means that Web3 would be extremely disruptive to their current business model, right? So I guess one of the things, the other point you made, that they're basically giving nothing, essentially drives back to the point about value creation, right? What they're giving is essentially a game where people have fun playing it, they have fun, showing off their items, and they're willing to pay something for those items, just for the purposes of having them in their account, and being able to show them off when they play against other players. And, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that
I think it sounds like a mafia, because it's like you're giving them money to buy something which you don't actually own, and if you try to get value from it, your account will get flagged. Maybe people put hundreds of dollars in their Fortnite or Valorant accounts, buying skins that they don't even have an actual utility. Like they don't actually give you even more um, skill to play or anything. It's just like cosmetic value. And these people is very sad that they need to trick the system, sell this account on eBay, and many other people that try to buy this account to get blood, because actually it's a mafia where they want all their money for themselves, They don't want other people to buy the skin from another player because this is taking value from them, which is actually unfair for the player because the player is buying something that should own.
yeah, I think it's interesting, right? I don't know that I agree with most of that. I don't know that it's a large percent of players that are expecting some sort of ownership interest and trying to do that in go on eBay and sell their accounts. I think the vast majority of players in games like Fortnite know that they don't, beyond I guess there's a difference, right? I think they know that they don't have any right to sell the stuff. I think they feel like they own it because I think games like that do a good job of making it feel like you own the thing that's there. But when it comes down to it, you really don't have any of the rights of ownership that someone would have. And I think for the smaller percentage that actually wants to, do that, right, to transfer those things and jumps through hoops and then gets banned, I think that is a matter of just that's the model, and some people are going to try to break the model. I don't know that there's anything and this is where I'm not sure I fully agree. I don't know that there's anything inherently personally wrong with that model from a can it exist perspective, but I do think that it's important for people to understand the difference, right? Just like if you rent something, you don't actually own it, you can't go and sell it. You're essentially renting those avatars. You own them for as long as the game tells you own them, right? They're something that you have in your account. You could lose it. You could be banned. The game could go out of business. They could release a new version of the game that everybody plays, and then all your stuff is useless, right? All those things can happen. Now, the Web3 version of that is you can transfer them. But the reality is a lot of the same things can happen. A Web3 game can shut down and then the assets may not be usable anymore. They may, the game itself may stop supporting those assets. So there's some myths that we kind of create, I think, sometimes too, on what making something an NFT or putting it on the blockchain actually does. Unless the whole game is stored on chain and is self-executing, I still think there's a level of trust that creates those ownership rights between the player and the game developer. But I think beyond that, what I think is, let's say someone's willing, let's say you do this divide, right? Where you've got, this is what ownership looks like, and that's Web3. This is what, renting and limited licenses look like, and that's Web2. And players kind of understand the difference. Well, now there's kind of this margin, this gap between, or there should be, how valuable someone should consider a skin on a Web2 game and would be, and how valuable someone would consider a skin on a Web3 game. And I think certain games have proven this even without Web2 through their in-game, or sorry, without Web3, through their in-game marketplaces. You look at games like CSGO, Roblox, which have real money marketplaces, and items that may not have been as valuable tend to accrue more value. And so I think with games like Fortnite, you have to be able to make the argument that says, well, let's say you can sell this for $5. If players can resell it, you have to be able to sell it for 10, right? They've got to make their 10 instead of their 5 so that the player can go and then sell that maybe for 20, but maybe for 5 in the future, right? And I think that's kind of the collectibles experience. The fact that there is a secondary market incorporated makes the assets more sellable, right? They make it more demand. And that's kind of how they think of it. I don't think gaming really has applied a collectibles model to their sales because they haven't ever had to. But I guess there are models that exist that kind of prove out the point that ownership tends to create more value if players understand the difference between what owning something means and what not owning something means. And I think the problem right now is that players either don't or don't want to understand the difference between ownership and what they have in Web2 games.
Yes, yes. I kind of agree, but also it's impossible for this Web2 marketplace like Fortnite or Valorant, to avoid this illicit behavior, or whatever you want to call it. People will still be trading accounts, will be trading skins illegally. Probably there is out of there hundreds of websites where you can see the value in USD dollar for Valorant skin in the secondary market, let's say, in accounts. Whether they want or not, there will be always like people making money from this behavior, trying to sell their items where they spend already hundreds of dollars and they want to get something from it. But yeah, I understand that the game and the players should understand that what they are buying from the beginning. But it's also kind of sad. I think it will be a much better world if everyone in their wallet they have the asset from all the games, which they can trade like if it was real life,
Yeah,
like
totally
when you pay for something, you actually have it. And then it should be a world where people say, I am paying for an item and I am actually not owning it. And then people stop playing to this game because this game, many players from these communities, they get their account black even sometimes for reasons that they are, because maybe the people from the game, they are thinking that they are doing illicit behavior, because they are really, many of these games, and I already checked it in forums, they want to avoid this as much as possible, people selling accounts or selling skins, in different games or dropping the item. And sometimes they block accounts from people that are innocent, totally innocent people that someone gives them an object inside the game. And then the admins of the game think, where did you get this item? Oh no, someone gave it to me. Someone gave this item to you that is worth this million coins. I say, yes. And then they block the account of the user. And then this is happening in some Minecraft servers, where in these Minecraft servers, what they want, the server administration is people to buy the item from them directly, of course. So the money goes directly to their pocket, 100%. So, but players sometimes they randomly get items and you see them in the forums scared of, oh, you should be careful. They will ban you for in real life trading, and because you're signing some terms and conditions that are extremely long, your account can disappear in a matter of seconds,
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's another point, right? That kind of goes back to what I was saying. If players don't truly understand the difference, then it's hard to even have a conversation with them about the value that we're creating in this space, right? If it's a matter of some terms buried in a terms of service agreement that's just a click through, right, where the player doesn't even have any idea what's going on, then it's kind of hard to say, well, what if you actually owned it? What if you could do these things and all that? And then I would much prefer a world where all digital assets are actually owned and we have this ownership scheme. But I also think that comes with a bit more, right? I think that for things, I've always kind of talked about NFTs as the tangibilization of digital assets. And the reason I say that is because they start to look more like physical assets than they do like digital assets when they become NFTs. And that's mainly because of this separation between the digital asset, the NFT, and the IP that it points to, right? The media file. And you know, when we think about traditional digital assets, it's not even a matter of do they want to open the doors, because they obviously they don't, right? They don't want to open the floodgates. They want to take all the money for themselves. They want to, you know, unless there's an opportunity to make even more money by not doing that, right? Or they're forced to by player sentiment, which is why I think NFTs are so scary. You know, Web3 is so scary to a lot of these studios. But even putting that aside, there's an entire body of law, international law across tons of different jurisdictions that exists around physical property, right? And tells people if something is physical property and you own it, these are your rights and these are the things you can do with it. And if you want to sell it on eBay, you can. And if it's a Pokemon card, you can call it a Pokemon card on eBay, and then you can put a picture of it, right? And you can say where it came from. And all these rights, this whole, you know, regulatory scheme that's developed around physical assets and licensing and cross, you know, use across different ecosystems, that's all taken a very long time to develop. And so, you know, again, I think as someone who entered this kind of with a legal background and saw the opportunity here, I think what I've realized over the last 8 years is that it's not as simple as just putting it on chain. It's not as simple as just making an NFT. It's not as simple as saying, poof, you own it, right? Because you don't. And if you have an NFT, great, it's in your wallet. But if it's a gaming asset, there's still a trust element. If you know, if is it property? That's a question that, you know, I think a lot of jurisdictions are still trying to figure out. What can you do with it? Well, that still goes back to the terms of service, right? Just because it's an NFT doesn't mean you own the IP. Same with a physical, you know, item. If you have a T-shirt with a logo of your favorite sports team on it, you don't own the logo just because you own the T-shirt, right? And so there's all these different, you know, rules and things we need to iron out in the space that I think come back to kind of your point that, you know, we have this tool that we can use now, even kind of what you guys are doing with Minecraft, right? Because you're creating this ownability layer. But if Minecraft blacklists that's it, right? Like they could shut down the whole server in theory. And so that's, you know, that's one of those things where it's I think we still have a lot of work to do on standard setting, right? We have a lot of work to do on saying, what does owning something actually mean before we can point to this and say, hey, here's the value that you guys are all missing out on. But I think that, you know, at least when you're in the space, when I'm talking to founders, everyone seems to kind of be on the same page. And I think that just needs to become something that all of these Web2 people, these gamers, these participants in the metaverse start to understand, and we need to make that more digestible. Because if we start to get into the weeds on Web3 and tokens and wallets and all that, and I think that was your original point, they get lost, right? It has to be easy. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything. I do think that there will be, even if this completely takes off, I think there are going to be different games that utilize the technology to different extents, and I don't necessarily think every game has to use it in order to create value. And I just think the value has to be different, and the value has to be understood to be different. Because maybe for a casual game, you just don't need it, right? Or for gambling games, you just don't need it. But for other games that are heavy item ownership, maybe it creates a ton of value.
Okay, I agree. I kind of agree, yes. But also regarding our Minecraft server is actually we are using like a cracked version of Minecraft, you know, where Minecraft doesn't have access to anything at all, you know, or they cannot do anything at all regarding this. That's why the players can play for free without even owning really the game if they don't own it to play in our game. But yes, just adding some extra information. And yes, but yeah, I understand what you said earlier, you know, that the perfect scenario will be where all the people allow, all the games allow this technology. Because, for example, I feel myself lucky that I invested a lot of, well, not invested, but I lost a lot of my time when I was younger, playing some video games, but actually was playing games like Counter-Strike or some Minecraft servers where actually it's possible to trade these in-game items for money. So actually because with the time, maybe back in the day, these items or special weapons were very normal, but then they stopped creating more supply of these weapons, and these people can actually get something for their time in the game, like some limited edition items or stickers or something that was only back in the day, and you see the date, because as in real life with everything, if you go up to a football match, maybe like 20 years ago or 40, maybe you will get a special paper, saying that you went to this match, and they give you some tickets, some cards. In real life, for all the activities that people have done through the history, it's possible to keep them, and you keep them in somewhere, and with the time it gets more valuable. Almost all kind of activities you can imagine that has been before Web 2, that you do in real life, you can always keep it and sell it in the future for more, But I think it's the first time where people are investing so many hours in their life into something they will never ever own,
Yeah, no,
compared to earlier.
I totally agree. And I think that that's, actually what we are seeing change, right? I mean, I think since the beginning of games, the value prop hasn't been, let's keep this, let's make money someday, right? Like the value prop is the fun, the experience you have playing the game. And then you kind of had this advent of like MMOs and kind of the item ownership becoming a huge part of the game. And with that, I think we started to have these questions about, Web3 and at least the value proposition of Web3. And that's what I was talking about before, is that there is what you were saying, right? There's this collectibles model that can be looked to for guidance on how do we build out Web3 ecosystems or gaming ecosystems that have a collectible nature. And I think back to the same thing. When I was a kid, I was collecting Pokemon cards. I was collecting baseball cards, Magic the Gathering. Those were games that I played that were physical games. And because they were physical games, there was also a collectible nature to the cards that I was collecting. And now if I want, I can go sell those cards for a lot more than what I paid for them, assuming I didn't destroy the cards, right? Why should digital be any different? Why should it be that I, spend a lot of time playing the game? I think the big difference is that I paid a lot more money for my Pokemon cards than I did for my Diablo 2 game, right? Or my RuneScape account, which was free, right? And so I think there's kind of a pushback that says, unless you're paying money for a thing, right, and spending, right, I think it's hard to justify that the game should have some obligation to create a market for that item. But if that item naturally accrues value over time and people want it, I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't be able to sell it. And then I would have loved to see, RuneScape Classic items, for example, mintable as NFTs. And who knows, maybe that's a direction, Jagex goes in the future, and it's something that they initiate. I think some of the biggest opportunities for major studios is to add Web3 layers on top of some of their old, historic IPs, like, a Diablo 1 or a Diablo 2. That could get real interesting, and they could find lots of ways to make a lot more money off of a game like that by, instead they did Immortals and introduced microtransactions, which is a disaster. But, I think they're learning as well and trying to figure out how to put Web3 into these games. Anyways, wow, the hour flew by. I think I talked too much this space, but this was a good one. I really enjoyed the conversation with you guys. I think we still have a winner to announce for our giveaway, so I'll kick it back to Spencer, and then we can start wrapping up.
Yes. This week's winner of 5 Satoshi's crystals is Georgie at Georgie__ I'm Oracle. Congratulations, Georgie. In order to claim your prize, all you have to do is go to game.legions2029.com. That's game.legions2029.com. Create a free account, and then just send us a DM with your username, and we will drop those crystals into your account for you to use. Congratulations, and I will pass it back to Nick to close this out.
Congratulations on what might be the last crystals giveaway, since soon we are going to switch to giving away our new in-game soft currency bits for those who attend the spaces. So be sure to tune back in very soon. We will be here next week, and then we're going to take a week away, so that next week, same time as this one's kind of be our new time, at least going forward in the near future on Wednesdays. But yeah, it's great conversation, everyone. I see more people here than were here before, so I'll give the speakers a quick chance to kind of, wrap up and tell everybody where to find them. On our side, we're Satoshiverse. We've been building for the last 5 years. Check out Legions 2029. All of the information you need is in the pinned tweet. It's free to play, high fidelity game. We've had about 25 people working on it for the past 3.5 years. So definitely excited to keep building it. A lot of cool things coming up. Definitely exciting times for the space. Thank you to our speakers today. Had a great conversation with both of you. And yeah, tell everyone, let's start with Outer Ring, and then let's go over to Retro. Just remind everyone where to find you guys. And then all the guests, thank you for joining. Please make sure to follow the speakers and support the great projects that are taking time out of their schedules to come on here. Outer Ring, let people know where to find you.
All right. Well, thanks for the space. And you can find all the news in outerringmmo.com. We have plenty information about what we are building and the stage that we have. And also on social media, you can find us at Outer Ring MMO as well. And we have a great community. You can join on Spanish and English. We are talking every day about news. And just to announce an alpha, in the next week, we will launch the video about what we have right now in the metaverse. So stay tuned because there's lots of things to share. And actually we are giving away several inside things. So be sure to follow us and keep updated. And thank you again for the space.
All right, thanks so much. Now over to Retro.
Okay, thank you very much for both of your time. And you can find us on X or YouTube, or just going to our website, retrocraft.io, and you can play the game for free. You can try. We are giving some rewards by a leaderboard system. Also, we are incorporating several Minecraft streamers in the following weeks. And that's all. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to the next one. If you enjoyed the space, join us next week. And that will be it for us for today. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.